Hey everybody, I'm Ellie Mae, joined with Shannon. In 3, 2, 1, here she is. And today's question is, are you worried about war breaking out between Israel and Iran? So last night, or the day before, I believe, Iranian forces in Syria fired about 20 rockets into the Israeli-controlled Golan Heights. And then Israel struck back at Iranian targets in Syria, because Iran has a presence in Syria, and so that's where Israel struck. So there are a lot of world powers involved in this. Obviously, you have Iran, Israel, and the United States, but you also have Russia and Syria, and basically most of the world sort of worried about what's going to happen with this. So, Shannon, are you worried about an actual war breaking out between these two?
I am worried about it. I am. I think it's. Oh, we're getting a call already. Should we take it? California?
Yeah.
Hi, caller from California. This is Ellie and Shannon. Tell us, are you worried about war between Israel and Iran?
Yes.
Do you think Trump pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal has anything to do with it, or do you think this is just due to longstanding tensions between the two countries?
I think what Trump did helped aggravate it, exasperate it.
So what actions do you think the U.S. should take to mediate between the two countries?
I don't think anybody will trust us, so I think that somebody else has to do the mediation.
Well, thank you so much for calling. Oh, go ahead.
I don't think Trump deserves Nobel Peace Prize at all.
Well, thank you so much for calling. We appreciate your point of view. You have a nice day, ma'am. Yeah, what do you think, Ellie?
I'm definitely worried about it. And it's definitely a scary thing. I'm trying to kind of get my thoughts together because, it's just very complex. And I'm glad that we're okay with Israel defending themselves. That the Trump administration is okay with that and showing support for them. But I'm definitely worried about this. I have a few tweets. About the Iran deal, I wanted to show a Hillary. Oh, hold on. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, caller from Ohio. This is Ellie and Shannon. What do you think about a potential war between Israel and Iran?
What?
We have our live show. You're live on the air. We're talking about whether war will break out between Israel and Iran. Is that something that you're afraid of?
I'm afraid of everything since we have this traitor in the White House now. I mean, what an idiot. I'm a lifelong Republican, and there is no way in hell I would ever have voted for him. I knew that I could not vote Republican as soon as he got the nomination, and it's been progressively worse and worse every single day. It's like, can we get rid of him now before he destroys the country?
So I take it you disagree with him pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal?
Of course. My God. I mean, he's like a spoiled little brat. Oh, well, Obama's more popular than me, so I'm going to have to make him look bad. It's just like a mean girl. He is. That's what he is. He's a mean girl.
Love that, Lindsay Lohan. Well, thank you so much for calling in. We really appreciate your point of view, and I hope you'll continue to take our polls. You have a nice day. I love it. Mean girl.
One comment said, "What's new?" And that's definitely true. What is new? That's definitely true. So, yeah, I mean, if you look, I always have these maps. Sorry, hold on.
This is good.
If you look at this map,
American could not pick the Middle East out of a map, much less Israel or Iran.
Right. So Israel is that tiny purple dot between Syria and what is it, Lebanon underneath it. And then Jordan is underneath that. And Iran is to the right. And gosh, on the map, Iran looks so large. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's just perspective of the region. And you've got Syria right above Israel, obviously, and that's where Iran has some presence in there, training some military people there. And yeah, so I was reading about why Iran is even in Israel. And let me see, where is it? Iran is one of the most powerful backers of Syria's president, Bashar al-Assad. It first intervened in the war to help defend Mr. Assad against Syrian rebels and later help Syrian government forces against the Islamic State. Iran continues to train and equip fighters while strengthening ties with its Shiite allies in Iraq and Shiite militant group Hezbollah in Lebanon in hopes of building a united front in the event of a new war. So obviously, I mean, they're kind of defending probably themselves in a sense too with all of that presence, or maybe they're preparing to attack. I don't know. I mean, Iran obviously has hatred towards Israel. That's no secret. But so that's kind of why they are there in Syria. That's why Israel struck there. But as far as the Iran deal, now I was reading more on that. There was this article in Vox, actually, Vox with a V, not Fox watchers. And it was an interview to a guy who was against the Iran deal. And it was very interesting because the questions were asked where it was like, well, both of us don't want nukes, so why are you against it? And so it's a very interesting article. I could read some of it, but we can go through comments maybe first. One more thing about the article, he kind of went over the things that the deal took away from us being able to do. So it said the deal took away all of our non-military, economically coercive options off the table. We had no way of confronting Iran in the region or confronting their missile program or confronting their support of terrorism short of military action. And one thing it was saying was that with or without the deal, Iran doesn't want to provoke us because we've promised, both Democrats and Republicans have promised that we would take military action, and they know they would essentially be doomed if that happens. So that's kind of what they were saying.
Please do not let us get involved in a land war in Iran.
Right. No, I know. But that's what they're afraid of. They're saying Iran is afraid of that. I hope to God that would never happen. And then one question I had, I don't know if you can answer it, but I was seeing things that the Iran deal was never signed by Iran. That was so weird. Like, it's on Daily Mail, which isn't very credible in my opinion, but yeah, it's just super weird. I was hearing that all over today, and I was like, that's odd. And a lot of people on our comments are saying Israel can defend themselves. They're able to defend themselves. They have an amazing Air Force, yada, yada, yada.
But I think scary, right? Is like Israel is a military superpower, and Iran is possibly now resuming their nuclear program. So that's really scary because there is so much enmity between the two groups. And so I understand, yes, like Israel has a very strong military, but that's what's scary, right? It's like, this is not a regional skirmish. This has the potential to be a nuclear war in like the worst case scenario. And I think that's partly why it's so scary, or that is why it's so scary.
So I was looking into it too, because I was like, why would Israel be against the deal if, the deal is promising? Go ahead.
Hi, caller from Oregon. This is Ellie and Shannon. What do you think? Are we in danger of an Israel-Iran war?
It may be an imminent war, but I'm not afraid of it. Israel will wipe them out within a week.
Do you think that would create instability in the Middle East that would be dangerous?
There's already instability in the Middle East. There has been for years. Yeah, as long as Islam is the reigning religion over there, there's going to be.
Do you think Do you think that if Israel pursues military action against Iran further to what they've done, do you think the United States should back up the Israeli military?
You bet. Every day.
Well, thank you so much for your thoughts, sir. We really appreciate you calling in. Hi, caller from Iowa. This is Ellie and Shannon. What do you think? Is there an imminent war looming between Israel and Iran?
Yes.
To the point. Does that scare you? Do you think that is dangerous for the world?
Our danger was putting Trump in as president. That's our danger to this world. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir. Hi, caller from Louisiana. This is Ellie and Shannon. What do you think about the possibility of war between Israel and Iran?
As hard as possible.
Do you think that us pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal had anything to do with it?
Can you hold one second? I'll call you back.
Okay, thank you, sir. You have a nice day.
So, a lot of, is there someone on the other line? No.
Yeah. No.
Okay. A lot of people keep saying, you know, Iran will lose, but it's not just Iran. They are allies with Russia. So it's not, this is bigger than just Iran and Israel. It's involving us. And a CNN article was talking about how France is very concerned. You know, the whole world would be concerned about this. So it's not as simple as Iran versus Israel.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And what's interesting is the interplay between these, because, you know, Israel and Russia have pretty warm relations. And so Israel gave Russia advance notice about their planned airstrikes. And I believe their ambassador to Russia was, or maybe even Netanyahu was there recently in Russia, like talking about this for a while. So yeah, it's a complicated geopolitical web. Caller from Illinois. Hi, caller from Illinois. This is Ellie and Shannon. What do you think about a potential for Israel-Iran conflict?
It's very scary. And that's why we shouldn't have broke from the Iran deal. We should have waited until it expired. So that's my feeling on that.
Do you think if Israel pursues military action against Iran, the U.S. should back up Israel?
No. I think we need to stay out of it. And that's what Donald Trump said, that he's not going to be the one to get into everybody's problems. No.
Well, thank you so much for calling. We really appreciate your point of view. You have a nice day, ma'am. Interesting. I probably should have asked. Oh, here's another. Okay, let's take one more call, and then I'm going to maybe transfer it to voicemail for a little bit.
Okay.
Hi, caller from New Mexico. This is Ellie and Shannon. We're talking about the Israel-Iran conflict. What do you think about that?
What?
We're talking about Israel and Iran, the potential for military conflict breaking out between them. What do you think about that?
I don't like wars anyway. I'm a Vietnam vet, and I'm against wars for anybody. It's not down here. I have a problem with that. Wars are just to eliminate population, and so I'm against it. Trumpet knew what he was doing. He knew that he would pass this agreement, and those wars were going to start, and that's what they want. And Iran has a lot of oil, and to be fighting for oil, that doesn't make sense. I believe that if we have nuclear power, I believe that everybody else should have nuclear power to protect their people and their state. I don't care who they are. If we want to control all the people and be like the movies, we ganged up, but it's like a gang members, They gang up on one person, and that's what we do, I don't believe that.
Well, thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate your point of view, and thank you so much for calling in. That was interesting. Yeah, who does support war? But I think there are definitely people who are pro-intervention abroad. I mean, I think under George Bush, there was a contingent of his cabinet who was quite for intervention, and obviously we did intervene. Multiple yeah, but I think you make a really good point, which is we are seeing a lot of commenters saying, oh, Israel has the bomb, they would destroy Iran. I mean, you can't think about that in a vacuum. That has so many ties into different countries and alliances and the situation in the Middle East and abroad. And Syria is already like a mess, you know, millions of people displaced, killed. So, yeah. And so in the Golan Heights, which I was reading because I thought it was a settlement, but it says during the 6 Days War, the Golan Heights was part of Syria and Israel took it over. And so the United States official position is that Golan Heights is Syrian territory held under Israeli occupation, subject to negotiation and Israeli withdrawal. The United States continues the application of Israeli law to the Golan Heights area to be a violation of international law, which I thought was interesting.
That is very interesting, yeah. A lot of people on our comments are also saying they are not worried. I think because this stuff happens a lot in that region, which is really sad. But it's just kind of, everyone kind of accepts it. There will always be war and blah, blah, blah. So that's unfortunate. So I was going to show one tweet I have by Hillary, which as Secretary of State, I helped negotiate the crippling international sanctions that brought Iran to the table. It would be much harder a second time now that our credibility is shot. So I thought that was interesting. And then Donald Trump, oh my gosh, Senator crying, Chuck Schumer fought hard again. Oh wait, is that about the Iran deal? I don't know. Okay, I can't read it. What it is about the Iran deal?
Fought hard against the bad Iran deal, even going at it with President Obama, and then voted against it. Now he says I should not have terminated the deal, but he doesn't really believe that.
So that's another one. And then I have a couple other, but we can go over those in a minute. So yeah, crazy.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of people, I think. I think one thing that a lot of Democrats and Trump supporters can agree on is the idea of non-interventionist foreign policy. And I think that's something a lot of people agree on across political, boundaries. That was the more traditional conservative and Republican stance, especially under Bush. More of a involved role abroad. And I think it's important for America to retain its influence and its position as the number one superpower in the world. I think that's important, and we should invest in that. And I think, sadly, we live in a world where military, having a strong military is a big component of that. But I think that is important. That being said, I don't think we should actively invade other sovereign nations unless, I look back at all of the wars and entanglements the United States has had in the past century. And I think I don't know that I have agreed with a single one. I mean, obviously I wasn't alive for many of them, but since World War II, I think pretty unequivocally everyone is like, that was the right decision to get involved in World War II. But the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Persian Gulf, the Iraq-Afghanistan War, I don't agree with those entanglements abroad.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you that there's a lot of common ground there on both sides. Common ground, yes, 100%. What was I just gonna say? Oh, some good news really quickly. The hostages were brought back from North Korea at 2 a.m. last night, or this morning, I guess. So that went well, and God bless them, and I'm really glad they are back. So that's our good piece of news in this.
Yeah, the last known American hostages held in North Korea.
That's great. Yeah, known. That's not funny, actually. I'm horrible. Okay, so do you want to look at more comments? Any voicemails or anything?
Let's see if we have some voicemails. Actually, a lot of callers were pretty anti-Trump and
they're mad about the Iran deal, especially. So the White House tweeted, the U.S. condemns the Iranian regime's provocative rocket attacks that the right word? Proactive? I don't know. From Syria against Israeli citizens, and we strongly support Israel's right to act in self-defense. So the White House is strongly supporting Israel in that tweet.
This regime, this administration under Trump, if Israel became involved in any sort of open warfare with Iran or another country in the Middle East, I think this administration would back up Israel 100%. I think we'd probably send troops in to support them, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I think that is the fact of this administration's position on.
I do too.
Wasn't Jared working out the two-state solution? Where's the peace deal, Jared? Peace in the Middle East. Let's get on it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, though, while they are very pro-Israel, they are saying that they are open to a two-state solution, which sometimes I feel like when people say they're pro-Israel, they're just not open to that at all. And so, I mean, it would require both sides agreeing to it, but that always shocked me about the Trump administration saying that they are open to that. And I know probably a lot of conservatives don't like that they even say that, but I think that's cool that they're saying that, to be honest. I mean, it would require both sides agreeing, so, I mean, I don't see what's wrong with that, necessarily. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
This Israeli administration under Netanyahu is, like, pretty right-wing, so yeah. I'm skeptical that there will be any sort of two-state compromise under the administration. I don't necessarily Yeah.
Do you think Trump is kind of relying on that when he's saying that he knows that that's probably not going to happen, but at least he's saying it to make it look like he's being, willing to compromise or reach out?
I don't know. I mean, I think Trump, Trump, one of the, like him or hate him, he says what he means, and so I don't think he is doing any sort of political posturing. I think he actually supports a two-state deal. I mean, I think those are the instructions Jared Kushner has. Now, whether Trump is actually prioritizing that and actually thinks there's any hope of achieving that, via diplomacy during his, presidency, I have no idea. Like, probably no. Probably it's not a super high priority for him, and he doesn't have strong, feelings that he'll be able to do that. But yeah, if it came about, do I think he would support a two-state deal? I do. I hope. My gosh. Yeah, I hope.
Yeah. All right. Well,
hopefully there's no more. So we'll agree on that. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, hopefully they walk back from this. Ooh, it's just scary. I mean,
Israel did say that they're done with strikes on Iran for now. So, and then CNN was saying it's actually Putin who sits in the hot seat right now to see what he's going to do next. But like you were saying, it seems like their relationship isn't too bad. So it's very complicated and intertwined, and it's not as simple as just Israel versus Iran. It's much, much bigger than that. So, well, it's been a pleasure, guys, and we will see you tomorrow on a great Friday. It is Friday tomorrow, so have a good Thursday, and we'll see you then.
See ya.